evening, everyone. How are y'all doing? I pray that you guys are all doing well today. Listen, thank you guys so much for joining me for another discussion. If you haven't already been able to watch our last discussion, we finished off part 2 with our Black men's health, and it was phenomenal. I had fitness experts Mario Taylor and Kevin Franklin, and we went in on the importance of physical fitness, which is my favorite topic. So you can catch the replay on YouTube on Faithful and Fit Training's YouTube page. It is up and live right now. So I appreciate all of you guys joining in for this live. I'm excited. I am super excited. I have fitness financial experts with me today. We're talking about exercising our financial fitness, right? No perfect time to discuss this topic than now with everything going on with our economy. And so I am extremely honored and excited to have our two guests, and I'm going to bring them in just a few minutes. Please share this live. Please share this live. Make sure you're sharing with as many people as you possibly can to let them know that we are having this candid discussion. With no further ado, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to go ahead and bring in our first person, Miss Felicia Towns. Felicia. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. I am so well. Thank you so much for joining us about with this conversation on financial fitness. Felicia, please tell the viewers about yourself and what you're doing.
Woo, woo. All right. So my name is Felicia, and born and raised in Mississippi. Now I'm living out on the East Coast, and I am currently in banking. And so I have over 13 years of financial experience. And so I'm excited to be here tonight to dive into this candid conversation and open up some dialogue as it relates to finances.
Awesome. And I absolutely love me some Felicia. She is a mastermind behind finances and has helped me because Lord knows I need all the help I can get to stay on track because it can be tough, guys. But if we get to a point where we can ask for help and get counsel, it is so important that we do. So I'm so grateful to have you on here, Felicia. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. The next person I'm gonna bring on is Mr. Beard himself, the Phil Brown. Hey Phil, let me get your audio on. It's saying you're
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Awesome.
Perfect. Sorry about that.
No problem. Welcome, Phil. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this conversation for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Phil, tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So born in Virginia, raised in Maryland, was in the military for about 5 years, got out the military and ended up falling into financial services actually through my younger brother. And it's really changed my life. Been here now. I'm a junior broker. Been in the industry for about 3 years, doing a lot of life insurance, retirement, and just helping people with those foundations for sure.
Awesome. Great. Listen, viewers, we have a heavy lineup for y'all. So please grab your notebooks and pens. I got my notes right here because this information, and of course, we'll have the replay so you can go back and watch. But this information is going to be very heavy and is going to set you for success, especially when we talk about kingdom financial management. This is an area that God has stretched and tested me in as well. And so I'm excited to be able to be here to learn from them and to hear Phil and Felicia's views on what it means to be financially prosperous. All right. Especially as believers, because it's important, y'all, right? It's important to be financially responsible and to manage your finances, especially as believers in the kingdom. So let's get this thing started. Y'all ready to get it started? Yes, let's get it started. So my first question is going to go to you first, Felicia. When we look at the Word of God, money is an important subject to God, whether in the Old Testament or the New Testament. With knowing this, why do you believe God cares so much about how we manage our money?
Good question. When we look at the scripture, even the one that you mentioned, and one in particular that I want to bring up. The Bible says in 3 John 2, beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prosper.
Yeah.
Because of that context, it is important to God Himself that we as believers manage our finances. How
Yeah.
can we effectively live? How can we effectively move or advance the kingdom?
Yeah.
Money. The Bible is clear. It said money answereth all things.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, whether that be natural or spiritual, you need money to pay your bills, you need money to, take care of necessities and, things of that nature. So it's important to him because he wants us to be a healthy people. It's
Exactly.
important to him because he don't want us to be out here just, living by happenstance or trying to figure out how we're going to make ends meet.
Exactly.
Although, we understand that we're all in different places in life, and we
Yes.
understand that we're all at different medians. But what are we doing to ensure that we are living to the expectation in which he requires of us? So because of that,
Good.
there are some basic principles when it comes to that. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. But
Yeah.
simply having discipline, being disciplined in your finances, not living above your means, making sure that you're living beneath your means. And so it's important to him because he wants us to be a people that are healthy, not just from a natural perspective, but also from a
That's good.
spiritual perspective. And so
Yeah.
it's important that we manage that well in order to be holistic and well-rounded individuals.
That is beautiful. I love that. I loved how you talked about even when it comes to just relying on him when it comes to our resources. And that's an important thing, especially as believers, because the word of God talks about, God being our sole provider, right? And that he should be our sole provider. So I love how you mentioned that, Felicia. So Phil, tell me, why do you think God cares so much about how we manage our money?
Absolutely. I would bounce off of what Felicia said, right? The main thing I saw from it was the discipline. At the end of the day, the way we do one thing is how we're going to do everything, right?
Yeah.
And so, as believers, as kingdom builders, and things like that, if we are able to manage our money, to grow it, and to be able to build the kingdom further, you're now giving resources to other people, right? At the end of the day, we're supposed to be of service to others. How can you be of service to others if you're in survival mode, not managing your money? Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's so huge for us, is to be able to, one, learn it ourselves, but then to be able to teach other people how to do it. That way, that's how you truly build the kingdom. If we're all just out here surviving, we're struggling, like she said, we're looking for where we're going to eat next. We're not going to be able to really go out and push the kingdom forward. We're actually going to be regressing it, right? And
Yeah.
I would say even further, being, if we're going to be kingdom builders, we want people to see us being able to show prosperity, right?
That's good.
Not
Yes.
for a love of it, right?
Yeah.
No, of course, but to say, hey, this is what God has given us, right, as
Yeah.
proof. And so I think that's why, he's like, hey, manage it now. It might be a little bit, but manage it now, and we'll watch it as it grows for sure.
That is good. Discipline. Man, that word discipline. You have to be disciplined. That's so, so good. Perfect, guys. So let's talk about understanding wealth. So explain. I'm going to go with you again first, Felicia. Explain how understanding wealth has changed your life and how you view money.
Yeah, so one thing I believe in is sharing my story and being transparent.
Yeah.
Because nobody arrives overnight. There's a process and a journey to anything. And growing up, money was always just kind of happenstance and just kind of flinging around.
Yeah.
With no sense of discipline. There was no sense of savings. It was almost as if everything I got, I was spending, just a quick
Yeah.
spender, quick spender. And then at the end of the day, I'm trying to figure out, well, what I'm going to do. So at that point, it becomes, you borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And then you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out, how I'm going to make ends meet. Or then you start living from paycheck to paycheck. And I
Mhm.
got to a point in my life where I said, this is not the will of God for my life. This is not how he wants me to live. So
That's
the
so
first
good.
thing I had to do was I had to change my mindset. A
That's
lot of times is how we think. Prosperity is not always in money itself, but it
for
starts
sure.
in the mind. It starts in how you think, how you view it, And once you change your mindset around finances, then you'll be able to hang on to it just a little bit longer and be a little bit more smarter with what it is you want to do with it. So as for me, I got to a place and I was saying, you know what? This is not God's will for my life. And I definitely don't want to live like this. I definitely don't want to be in a place where I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. So I had to make some decisions. I had to make some decisions that I was going to do something different. And anytime when we're dealing with, coming from one place in life to another, we have to make a decision of what it is that we're going to do different. So then I decided that because I wanted to make a decision to do something different, in that moment, I said, you know what? I'm going to get up. I'm going to get on some budget plans. I'm going to get with me a financial planner, and I'm going to make some better decisions. I'm not going to spend every dollar I get, and I'm going to learn the importance of no. Because a lot of times when you go out with your friends and you're doing things, you start buying stuff you really can't afford. You go eat at restaurants you really don't need to be eating at that moment. So I had to learn the power of no. And in that moment, when I learned the power of no, and I made the decision to do something different, I begin to see a turn in my life. I begin to see a turnaround. And when you start seeing those dollars add up and that, your account looking a little bit different, that's motivation. And it was encouragement to me to keep going, to keep doing it, And so one thing about it, as you start off, it's not easy. It wasn't an easy journey. It wasn't something that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm about to start saving money. It didn't mean that, I didn't fall along the way, or I didn't make mistakes along the way and still sometimes overspent. But because I was determined to stay in it, because I was determined to not give up, because I was determined that this is not the end, but it's only the beginning of something greater.
That's
good. So with that in mind, I was able to then view money as currency, money as resource, money as a way to get to the next step in life. And because I changed my mindset, and because I made a decision to look at things differently, I now live and sit in a different place from a financial perspective.
That is so good.
Yeah.
That is so good. The Bible talks about the renewing of our minds as well, right?
Yeah.
And so I loved how you talked about changing your perspective on how you viewed it. Because that once you've made up your mind that, hey, like, I'm not just going to go out here and do whatever with this thing, like, it changes the trajectory of, even if you mess up, like, it's like a bounce back. The bounce back is quicker. It's not like you sit in that pit, like you bounce back much quicker with that. That's great. Go ahead, Phil.
Hey, she's killing it. I love it. I love it. I think first things, my circle of influence when coming up was not talking about money, right? I know it. We were talking about what cars, girls, right? All of the things that didn't have anything to do with me moving forward. And then of course you go through school. We're not really taught this kind of stuff through school, right? And so we end up coming out and I started to realize the same thing, right? I'm in the military, I'm getting pretty good benefits and all that, still living paycheck to paycheck. I'm popping out kids, right? And so now it's like, hey, I have to be more responsible with this. And so it just so happened that this industry kind of stumbled upon me through my brother. He introduced me to it, and I didn't realize how much I didn't know, right? And I think that's key. You have to understand that you don't know everything, right? Financial intelligence is something that's built over time. And so once I started learning it, I started learning disciplines, and then I started to dive even further into it. Like, why didn't I know it? Right? What was going on that I missed all of these different steps? Now I'm going into my, late 20s into my early 30s, not understanding how money really worked. Right. And so I started to really look and understanding, hey, this is it. Money's abundance, right? You have to have an abundant mindset. Started reading a lot of books on it, which started shifting my mindset, getting around different circles who said, hey, you know what? You can be mediocre if you want to, or you can really come in and learn this system to utilize it to then go out and be able to show other people how to do it. And so for me, I think that was one of the biggest things, is to really learn it for myself, and then of course be able to turn and then teach others, right? And so good. I mean, ever since I've been blessed with a group of mentors and people in my life who have really been able to show me the groundwork. And now it's just for each person to do it. And like Felicia said, it's not going to happen overnight. You don't break habits overnight, right? It's a process. But if you're open-minded, you make the decision, hey, we're changing this. It's not going to continue. I know there's other things out there. I know there's other resources. Everything can go up from there for sure.
That's good. That's so beautiful. I like how you were talking about your circle because that really, really matters as
Yes,
well. Um,
absolutely.
I remember when I was seeking financial help, how initially I was seeking it from a circle that wasn't really going to put me on the path to success or even integrity,
Hmm.
really. And so I think that it's very important as believers, as you both have mentioned, that well, feel more so that we're around those who model,
Yeah.
even if they do like, it's just understanding that they understand the financial, the kingdom financial management principle. And that's actually a segue to our next question. I'm gonna start off with you first, Phil. What are your views? I know we talked about that initially, with the first question about how we believe God, why we believe God cares so much about it, but talk more about your view on what kingdom financial management looks like for us as believers.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe truly that in order to go out, like I said before, in order to go out and to provide for others, you have to be in a place yourself. Right.
Yeah,
And so, my pastor, Stephen, Union Church, he always talks about if you're in survival mode, you can't hear God.
yeah,
Right. And,
yeah,
and so I think that's so key because for us, we have to be able to be of stewardship ourselves to then go out and be a resource to the community, to, the people who don't have as much as we have. Right. And so
yeah,
as we're
yeah,
focused on, hey, we're going to build, we're going to be a resource, we're going to be an arm for the next person, we're going to be of service, understanding and being able to manage your money for the kingdom and knowing that, hey, none of this is because of me. Everything is because
yeah,
of God, right?
yeah, yeah.
Everything. Making sure that, hey, we turn around and we point everything back to Him, right? And
Yes,
saying, hey, I have this now because God said I was obedient. I surrendered my life. And God said, hey, I'm going to trust you with little first. And as you build, I'm going to give you more and see how you do. Every level, there's a new test. I
yeah,
believe totally that's
good.
why we need it. I mean, if you don't, you will stay in mediocrity. The word mediocrity to me is such a scary word because it's like,
Yeah,
hey, I can't do it. I have to continue to move forward and push everything forward for sure.
that's so good. That's so good. Felicia?
Yeah. Just to kind of jump on that, one thing that Phil said is one thing that I wanted to point out. Kingdom financial management is simply stewardship.
That's
How
good.
well do you steward what God has given you?
I love it.
That's
How
good.
well do you steward the resources and the finances that have been put in your hand?
Hmm.
So when we think about stewardship and we look at even what stewardship means, what am I doing with it? and
Yeah.
and stewardship is connected to the heart. The Bible says wherever your treasure is, there is where your heart is.
Yes,
So,
yes,
and because of that, kingdom financial management is tied to stewardship and your heart. The heart matter and the heart posture is what matters in the end.
for
So,
sure.
with that being said, if your heart is in the right place and you have stewardship over that which He has given you, and understanding that He is the source,
Mhm.
wherewith how we get everything that we have, then
Yes,
we can advance the kingdom. But once we take our eyes off of that, we become a stagnated people, and
yes,
once you become stagnated, you begin to stink after so long.
yes.
And
That's
so,
the truth.
you know, stewardship is so important when it comes to kingdom financial management. Anytime we want to obtain wealth, anytime we want to obtain property, anytime we want to obtain even life insurance and different things that matter as we progress through life, is how we steward it is what gonna matter in the end.
Wow. Woo! Let me
Yeah.
tell you something, viewers. If you are not taking notes, please, 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 please make sure you're taking notes because this, we are getting deep already and it is so good. Please share this live with anyone and everyone you could possibly think of. And also, if you have any questions at the end, we'll leave some time for Q&A. So please bring those questions in as we're talking. And I will pop in and look at those questions and we'll get those answered for you. Wow, this is good. This is really, really good. So let's jump to the next question. Explain the benefits of understanding money and how, well, we kind of answered this a little bit, but understanding how money can work for us as believers. Because I know we talked about when it comes to kingdom financial management about stewarding it. So now that we have it, How can we make it work for us as believers? Go ahead, Felicia. Do you want to tackle this one
Ooh.
first? Yeah.
With this, I believe investing.
Okay.
When it comes to um, investments and investing and making your money work for you,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, I'm sure, when you think about investing, this is money that is set aside for the future or to build wealth.
Yeah.
And so once we begin to build wealth from a place of investment, we are now building what we call legacy. We are now building and holding out for the future. And
Yes.
so with that, when that happens, then your money will work for you. There's a return on your investment. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you put in, you should always be able to get something out.
That's good.
And so, this just goes back to what we was talking about earlier as it relate to, I think Phil had mentioned it. He was talking about knowing just even your circle of people. Resources are also a way to ensure that your money and your resources work for you as well.
That's
Who
good.
you're
Yeah.
surrounded by, your circle of influence, your circle of people. It's a currency that will move in our favor.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Phil?
Yeah, look, I agree. Investing 100%. I think um, for me, I'm going to go the life insurance side, right? And so I'll go indexing. Okay. And so for me, I always start with a foundation of something that is going to be safe, right? So you still have growth, you can still access it, but then you also have the safety of it as well. Because as we are seeing right now, you have maybe parents or people who are in older ages. Yes, they're investing, but if you don't truly understand what's happening and you're trusting it to someone that maybe or maybe not knows what's going on, you
Yeah.
could lose a lot. and
Yeah.
and just from my perspective and the clients I've sat down with, I've seen a lot of people who are going into retirement, looking at retirement, and are losing a lot of money because they're putting their money into different places and not really understanding the market, right? What's going on with the short-term and long-term debt cycles and how all of this stuff is
Yeah.
happening,
Mhm.
Ukraine, and how that inflected, impacted the market and
Yeah.
everything happening. And so of course, we always want our money to work for us. When I look at the investing side, I want the money that I can afford to lose to
Yeah.
Yeah,
go into investing, right?
yeah,
I also want to build a foundation right now that I know I can
That is
access
good.
and have safety to, right? And
yeah,
That's
so there's the two sides of it when it comes to that for my discipline and what I do.
yeah.
that's so good. Yeah. And so why should, as believers, why is it important for us to learn how to save our money? Phil?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the resource, right? It always goes back to, like Felicia said, the stewardship, but then also the tool.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, I'll say it all day. I can't help anyone else if I can't, one, do it myself first,
Yeah.
right, and then be able to be an extension, right? I think so often we look at people who have money, and there's the mindsets. Oh, money, this, that, and the third. But if you let's say we have two people, we have someone who can give $100, right? But they
Yeah.
struggle to give that $100, or there's someone who can give $1,000. There's no struggle, and then they learned how to make that $1,000 back just as fast as they gave it out. Who's impacting more people?
Mm-hmm.
Probably the person that can give out $1,000 freely to a bunch of people than the one person that struggled to give $100,
Okay.
right? And
Got it.
so I think that knowledge and being able to learn it and really study it, you're now being a resource for a lot more people to then bring, teach the principles, the values, character, all that stuff that then brings them back to what are we talking about? Building the kingdom, right? So that's
Exactly.
what it comes down to.
That's good. That's good. Felicia, what is your views on saving money and how we should be intentional about making sure that we are putting money set aside,
Yeah,
especially this time and day? Really, yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Especially with where we are as a from a worldwide perspective, and with inflation and everything that's happening. Now is probably the one of the most critical times that saving should be something that should be on all of our calendar. There's three principles that I always go by and I share with my clients when I'm talking to them, and that is earn, spend, and save.
hmm,
You earn your money, you look at what you got, you pay your bills, do what you need to do, and then you pay yourself. Now,
yeah,
it depends on where you are in life. You're paying yourself can be I'm paying myself to treat myself, or I'm paying myself to build my savings account.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the percentage of what you save, I always go by what it is that you're currently making from a payroll check. Now, if you're making $1,000, then you may want to take maybe $50 a paycheck and put it to the side and save it. But this is definitely the time that I believe is important that we are saving. I posted this on social media not too long ago. I'm in the banking business, and I believe that you need to pull some money out of the account and keep it at the house. Yeah, my
Yeah.
ex is gonna come out. Everything that's happening and that's popping off, you should have a stash somewhere at the house.
Wow.
With technology and everything that's even happening in the banking system, you want to make sure that I'm not saying that your money is not secure in the banking system. Let me say that. But what I
Yes.
am saying is that I believe that this is a time for us to use wisdom and to pull it out and put it to the side. Saving is going to be important because at the end of the day, there's going to come a time when we're going to need it.
Wow, that's so good. Yeah, because the uncertainty with our economy right now. I would have thought you were crazy if you said that, Felicia, like
Yeah.
2, 3 years ago. But granted, there's no consistency right now, so it's important that we are staying ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right? Yeah.
Look, I'll say this: it's powerful if a banker says take some money out and put it at their house. All right, so if you guys didn't write that down, that's huge, right?
Yeah. When she said that, I was like, dang, I feel
That's
that.
huge. Yeah, absolutely. Have a
and
stash.
and, and that's not to infiltrate fear, because
Yeah.
one thing about it, the righteous will not be affected. Hear me
Yes.
today. The righteous will not be affected, but it is to use faith and wisdom
That's
in
good.
our maneuvering and what we do with our finances. Yeah.
That's
I love it.
good.
Yeah.
That
We
is so
don't
good.
have fear. There's no fear here. No
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah. We are partners. Me and Felicia are partners at All Nations Worship Assembly, Baltimore, and we honor our leaders, Apostle Yolanda and Pastor Corey Stith. And one of the things Apostle Yolanda Stith was talking about was the Joseph anointing of knowing the times, knowing when to move, right? And so that's so important. And even the sons of Issachar, right? We talk about the sons of Issachar, knowing the times as well, and knowing how to move in discernment. So that's key, guys. If y'all got anything, I hope y'all got to pull some money out and put it aside. That's really good. All right, let's go to the next one. So this one is as we talk about debt, right? So debt is, whoo, if it's anything that we can, well, most Americans can say they have a relation in, is that somebody accumulated some debt in their life, right? And
Mhm.
so when looking at debt, I'll go with you first, Phil. Again, when looking at debt, why do you believe debt has consumed the Western culture?
Well, we're spending more than what we're making at the
Yeah,
end of the day, all right?
yeah,
And so we see through history where there's more going out than what we have, right? And then we also see where there's times the Fed is just printing money, right? And so there's all these different things that play a role into it. And so as a nation, if the nation is doing it, then of course its people are going to be doing it,
yeah,
right? We're basing a foundation off of what we're being taught,
yeah,
right? And so then of course that ties back into the schooling system. I'm a big proponent. There's a reason why we're not taught about debt and taxes in school. It's
Mhm.
because that's what funds the school systems at the end of the day,
wow,
right?
yeah,
The roads and everything else, especially taxes, that's a different story. But at the end of the day, these things matter. And so until we find a way to really be able to control these different things, we're playing, inflation goes up, now we're raising interest rates, right? It's a game, right? Again,
yeah,
going back to debt cycles.
yeah,
What we have to do is actually truly understand how this economy machine works,
yeah.
right? And if people haven't checked out Ray Dalio, he has a great YouTube series, and he talks about the economy machine and how all this stuff works. But if it continues to happen, well, we're going to have these huge cycles. We're going to be in debt, and shoot, I think right now we're like $50 trillion in debt as a nation, right?
Yeah.
And there might be 10 trillion printed and in circulation. So, I mean, it's going to continue to happen for sure.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Felicia, talk about your views on debt and why you believe that it's such a big thing over here in America.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things Phil said, and I totally agree, is the living beyond your means and
Mhm.
spending what you don't have.
Yeah.
I think that, back in the old days, I'm not that old, but they used to say keeping up with the Joneses.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of times I feel like, we're driving what we don't have in our bank account, or we're living in what what I'm saying, we don't show forth in our bank account. That's not good stewardship.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people in the Western culture look at what I drive and what I live in is what defines me.
Exactly.
And that is one of the biggest downfall that I believe keep us in so much debt, is because we're being defined by materialistic things.
Yeah.
Materialistic things is not what's going to keep you from day to day, if you
Yeah.
will. And
Yeah.
so when it comes to that, I think that credit card debt, terrible. I think that's one of the biggest thing that we tend to fall back on. When we don't have it, then we go run up a credit card. No,
Yeah.
no, no. One of the things I believe in, snowball them credit cards, get rid of them or pay them down.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
interest rate is going to continue to go up, and then you're going to be stuck back in the same place. And
Exactly.
so, one thing I would say is that living beneath your means is not a distaste. It's not a bad look on you, but living beneath your means gives you the wherewithal to live.
That is so good, Felicia.
I'm gonna say that again. I felt that a little bit.
Yeah.
Living, living beneath your means gives you the wherewithal to live.
That's
you
so
know and,
good.
and just because we show up good don't mean we're doing good. A lot of times
Absolutely.
we can show up real good on the outside and drive up real good, but at the end of the day we really struggling.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that the life we want to live?
Yeah.
So
So
it comes to a point where you have to decide, am I going to just go ahead and decide to live beneath my means so that I can live, or I'm going to continue to live above my means and continue to struggle with living?
That is so good, Felicia. And
Yeah.
that's a one thing I would tag along with that too is social media. One of the things that I had to fight against was, and this was recently, like you see these people show their highlight realm, and you think that you're not doing enough. You think that you got to go and buy it too. You think that you got to do whatever whatever to keep up, and very similar to keeping up with the Joneses. But social media had really consumed me, and I had to make the decision. I was like, you either gonna sit here and compare yourself, because that's initially what got me into the hole that I'm in,
yeah,
comparison. And
Yeah.
so it's that, like, you either going to continue to compare yourself, or you're going to, like you said, Felicia, you're going to scale things down, and
Mhm.
realize that you're here right now, and whatever you got to take to get to where you want to be, you do everything to get to
and,
where you
and, and to remain encouraged to know that I'm not going to be here always. This is not going
exactly
to always be,
temporary.
my status. Yeah, this is just temporary. You know,
good.
Eventually you can ride out in your Rolls Royce if you want to. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Ride, but
I'll say
just
it.
being disciplined in that. You know what I'm saying? Until you get to that place, because I do believe that place belongs to everybody who desires it. I believe
Yeah.
that place belongs to everybody who wants it. And as
Yeah.
long as you put it to work, it belongs to you.
Whoo, that's good. Go ahead, Phil. I know
Yeah.
you're itching to
No,
say
I think one of the biggest conversations that you guys both spoke on is just delayed gratification,
Yeah.
something.
right? In this social media realm and everything that's going on, we are so used to just getting everything when we want it right now, right? We see a vacation, and we're gonna go pay for it with a credit card. Now we'll be paying 3 times as much for that vacation,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Delayed gratification says, no, I see what we want right now. I'm gonna plan that out, but I'm going to wait for it,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to plan, and I'm going to do the things I need to do. That way, I'm not sitting in mounds and mounds and mounds of debt, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's a huge word that is so underrated right now. But we have to get back to that delayed gratification, because going full, long term, that's what really shows us the fruits of our labor, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Wow. That is so powerful. I love
Good.
that so, so much. So let's go into talking about, stocks, bonds, cryptocurrency. These are all popular subjects right now in the money world. What are your views? I'll go with you first, Felicia. What is your view on investing in these avenues, and how can investments work in our favor with these avenues?
Yeah. So I'm a big advocate for stocks. I'm a big advocate for investments. I totally believe in them. Let me give my disclaimer. I totally, I totally believe in them.
Yeah.
Um, if I could give even some advice as it relates to stocks, there are a few
Mhm.
that I would recommend. But with where we are now, my recommendation would be to hold up a minute.
That's
Just
good.
hold up a minute.
Yeah.
And with that, there are certain ones that I believe, and I just recently did this myself. I moved some money around. I took some out of one stock and put it into another, just because of some things that were happening within those particular organizations.
Yeah.
If I can give any words of wisdom as it relates to stocks and things of that nature, is to hold up a minute.
That's good.
Just wait. There's power in waiting.
Yeah.
There is power in waiting. But the stocks market, it works for us, it will work for us. And as the world begins to turn around from this place of famine, as they call it, and inflation, the stock market will work in our favor if we have our money in the right place.
That's good.
I believe this is the time with the stock markets that we should be in a low risk factor and not one that is much risky. So
Okay.
with that being said, when it comes to the stock market, my word of wisdom to everyone that is watching is to simply just wait it out.
That's good. So when you're talking about waiting, so what give us some insight on learning the stock market, because it can be a foreign thing for those who are just now get are just learning how to manage their money, or when it comes to understanding, you know, how the stock market even works. Can you give just a little bit of insight on the stock market itself?
One of the biggest things I believe when it comes to stock market is research.
Yeah,
Knowing what you're investing in, knowing the background of that particular organization, even knowing what their financial status and budget flow looks like, and even how they utilize their finances. Because at the end of the day, whatever decision they make, it's going to affect you.
that's
So
good.
when it comes to the stock market, my recommendation would be is do your research, get the information you need to get as it relates to the organization that you're interested in investing in, and
Yeah.
make sure that you have financial data, financial sheets, and all of that as it relates to that particular company, because how their money fluctuate and how they spend and do is going to affect you in the long run.
That is good. I love how you're pushing us to do the research.
Yep.
I love it. Gain the knowledge for yourself. That's
Yep.
so good, Felicia. Phil, why should people consider life insurance?
It goes back to what I said. It's a foundation, right? The easiest way to pass or transfer wealth is through life insurance first. Before we even talk about the indexing and the whole life and all the other things out there, the
Yeah,
easiest way to
Mhm.
transfer wealth tax free is through life insurance,
Yeah.
right? And so that's number one. Now, we look at other things. When you're talking about indexed accounts, you're talking about safety and you're talking about growth,
hmm,
right? And so we have people, we talk about 401ks, you're going to be taxed later in life. Well, we think taxes are going up or going down? Taxes are
Mhm.
going up,
yeah. I was just
right?
saying,
So,
yeah,
hey, we're putting money into these tax deferred accounts that we're going to be taxed higher later in life when we just talked about debt. We know debt is still going up. So, how do the government think that they're going to get this money back? Through taxes. And
Yep.
so, say 401k, I always say go to the match, but don't try to overfund a 401k, right? There's other vehicles out there like an index universal life policy where you can utilize that cash, have that cash grow for you. There's no stipulations on when you can borrow against it, right? You can utilize that to leverage to go out. And then when the market crashes and when everything goes for cheap, then you can utilize the cash in that to then go and buy other properties and build your wealth that way, right? And so for me, I'm totally an advocate for it. Of course, that's what I do. But knowing how to properly structure it, right? Knowing how to leverage and knowing how to be able to help a client go out and say, hey, this is what I want to do long term. Let me see the roadmap to your future, what you want, and then being able to use safe environments like a index account, right, where you're guaranteed your growth. It's backed by these Fortune 500 companies. Insurance is probably one of the safest places you can have your money, right? It backs everything up
okay.
to be able to have your money there. And in case something does happen, you do have that foundation, right? And so I'm big on saying, hey, you can grow your money. I believe in diversification all the way through. I do it myself, right? And so I'm not going to sit here and say, no, don't. But I know that I can, if I have an account where I can grow money, where I can borrow that money to go out and leverage other things, but still get compound interest on the money in that account, it's a no-brainer for me.
That's good. So talk about Phil, what life insurance is.
Hmm.
What exactly, when you're investing in life insurance, what exactly are you investing in?
Very good. Good question. So the most people, when they hear life insurance, what do you think? Right? Death. And that's it. There's
Literally.
nothing else to it. Right? Absolutely. Right. And I laugh about it, but that's what I thought. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was the first one to say it. And so as I started learning about it, you start to realize that, hey, you're paying money into these things, of course, just like everything else. There's fees and your money's growing, but you have accounts where you're getting, you pay some money into it. Some of it goes to life insurance. You're paying for life insurance, of course, but
Yeah.
then you're also paying for a cash value. Now, this cash value is also tied to, say, an S&P 500, a Dow, a Mark, right? And so whatever that market is doing, you're participating in the growth of that market.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, the challenge is, say, let's just say indexing, okay? There is a cap. You have 9% cap on it. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, there's a 9% cap. If the market does 20% growth, you're only getting 9%. All right.
Mm,
Let's say the next year the market does 8% growth. Well, you're not past the cap. You're getting all 8%.
yeah.
Now, let's just say, though, the last 90 days, 6 months now, the market's crashed. We've gone down 38%. All right. And let's say just in the S&P 500 alone, you lose nothing in your life insurance, cash value growth. And so that money is just sitting there for you. Right. And
Okay.
so I'm so huge on, hey, being able to participate in the uptake of the market. But if the market crashes, I lose nothing. A lot of people could benefit from that as a foundation, for sure.
Cool.
That's good.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we don't want to lose when the market loses, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
good. I love that. So, Felicia, back to you. Talk about the importance, and as I mentioned at the beginning of, or the benefits more so, as I mentioned at the beginning of this live, Felicia has helped me navigate through my finances. Talk about the benefits of working with a financial consultant.
Yeah, basically, it's simply accountability.
Yeah.
Someone to come alongside you and to hold you accountable to your own personal goals.
Yeah.
A lot of times, John Maxwell says one is too small of a number. So if you get somebody else to come alongside you, to journey with you, to encourage you and hold you accountable to what you said, not necessarily to give you new instructions, but they
Mhm.
hold you accountable to what you said,
That's
what it
it.
is that you want to do, what it is that you desire to do. You want to buy that house and you want to get you that car, you want to, whatever it is that you want to do in life, you want to pay off those credit cards. We come alongside you to hold you accountable and to make sure that you are keeping your no in perspective and
Yeah.
making sure that your budget is intact and making sure that you are planning for where it is you want to go. So basically, financial consultant is simply just accountability. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, the decision belongs to you.
Yeah.
We're not here to make you do anything. We're just here to encourage and to keep you accountable for what it is that you have set in place that you desire to do and where you desire to see yourself 5 years from now. Short-term goals, long-term goals,
Yes.
smart goals, things that are attainable and reachable and not outside of your means.
That
Yeah.
is so good. Let me tell you something. Having Felicia as an accountability person, I mean, I want to go swipe, and I was like, oh, I think you just think of her and you're like, dang. So I definitely having that, someone just put in this comment, having that voice of reason is so helpful. And it
Yeah.
definitely is. And one of I've benefited so much in the past from it and looking to continue to benefit in the future. And so yeah, that's so good, Felicia. So let's talk about practical steps, Felicia. First, I'm gonna go with you.
Mhm.
How can you provide for us practical steps for getting out of debt?
Okay, so let's see. Practical steps for getting out of debt. The first thing I would say is write down everything that you owe. If you could take a piece of paper and put a line down the middle, you put your income on one side and your outcome on the other side.
Yeah.
And you measure that based upon what you have coming in and what has to go out. That's the first step, because you got to know what you're working with to know if you even have anything left to work with or if you have more than enough to left to work
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
So knowing what you have coming in and what you currently have going out is the first step, as it relate to practical steps to getting out of debt. The second thing is to map out a plan and goals, short-term goals, where you want to see yourself, let's say in 6 months. That's the first step. Where do you want to see yourself in 6 months? As you proceed to those 6 months goals, then we will extend for the bigger items or the larger things you want to do and see come off for the long-term goals. So just some basic practical steps would be to first make that list so you can see where you stand. You have to know where you stand in order to know where you're going.
That's
You have
so
to know where you stand in order to know where you want to be and where you want to end up.
yeah. Yeah.
So make that list. Those who are watching, I encourage you to take some time to sit down and make that list of what it is you have coming in and what it is that you have going out, and start there. So that way you know what you're working with. You may have to start off saving $5, $10, but it's a start. You may have to start off taking a percentage of your income and putting it to the side, but it's a start. Never
Yeah.
diminish where you are as a start, but always know that there's greater on the other side as long as you stick to it and as long as you remain consistent. Consistency is the key. Inconsistency will get us nowhere, but if
Yeah.
you remain consistent in it, you will see the benefits and the result of it.
That's good. That is so, so, so good. I love that. And consistency is definitely key. Because once you drop it and you have it, like for me, I can only talk about me, y'all. So I'm only talking about me because this has been like I'm soaking it all in right now. But when the moment I stop being consistent is the moment I go to God complaining about my finances. Like it was every single time, right?
It
And
wasn't even God. He ain't did
literally, he's like, "What are you coming to me for?"
You left the plan. You did it.
He's like, "You have everything you possibly need to make sure you're prosperous in this." And so, yeah, I love that so much. And for our viewers, if y'all have any questions, please feel free to start asking them right now, and we'll get them on and be able to ask them towards our guests, and so we can get those answered for you. Phil, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Can you provide practical steps and how to begin investing and what you think we should be investing in now? And I know Felicia touched on this a little bit earlier, but what is your take on understanding our what is your take on the practical steps towards investing and for someone who is like,
Totally out of, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a great question. I think first, just like Felicia said, it starts with a budget, right? You need to know what you have coming in and what you have coming out. Do you have 3 to 6 months of savings, right? Do you
yeah,
have something in case something happens, you lose a job, whatever it may be? Is that set in place? What else do you have? Do you have debt? Do you have other things that you're paying off now? The major thing that I believe in, I think Felicia touched on it, is paying yourself,
yeah,
right? And so you should be paying yourself, regardless if it's $10, if it's $100, you should have something set aside for yourself. Now, on top of that, we all look at jobs, right? You're investing. If you're in a 401k, if you're in anything like that, you are investing whether you know it or not,
yeah.
right? Again, that I walk back to the 401k. I always say go to 3% or whatever is being
That's good.
matched. Don't go over it, right? But you're investing there. And then,
Yeah,
of course, I'm always going to say the foundation of life insurance. Do you have life insurance that covers your mortgage, that, 5 times your income, right? You should have that uh, for your family, all these other things. Is all that in place? And then you go in and invest, right? And now
yeah.
there's two sides of investing, right? And we
Those
talk
are
about, rich dad, poor dad. You go from employed to self-employed to business owner to investor, right? Are you doing it in that magnitude? Or are
yeah,
you just looking
yeah.
to go in and invest in stocks and things like that, Robin Hood and all those good different things, right? And so there's a lot of things that play into it. I think you should really sit down and get a plan out, to really look at what again, it's all about the roadmap. Where
Yes.
are you trying to be long term?
Yeah.
Think about taxes, right? When you're
Yes.
investing, or what tax bracket will you be in, right? All of these different things play a role. But as Felicia said, right now, I'm just waiting, right?
Yeah.
I think
That's
it's more important to have cash right now than it is to be going and buying a bunch of stocks, because it's going to get worse, right? And so just with that alone, the way interest rates are going up, the way the banks are going to be squeezed, the way that homes and everything else is going to go for sale, and it's going to be like hot item tickets, I would say right now it's probably not the best time to really be going all in and
That's
investing.
good.
You
That's
know,
good.
just for me, I tell you, we have clients every day who are trying to move 401ks, right? Trying to move their retirements because they've just been losing so much these last, 6 months, really.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you, I had a lady, she was, never mind, we won't even talk about it. Anyway, let's just say we started back in November. There was a dollar amount there. By the time February came, she had already lost a whole bunch. And it was just, there was,
Wow.
you know, a reality check. Like, hey, this is happening. We need to do something to stop the bleeding now.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, that's my advice. Now, I'll give you, I'm not a stocks expert, right? I'm a life insurance agent. So I put that out there whenever I tell
Yeah.
anyone anything. But that's just from the research that I'm doing and studying. That's what I'm saying for sure.
Perfect. That's so, so good. That's good. Now, to my viewers, I appreciate you guys coming on so much for this discussion, a very candid discussion, very deep discussion on um, what it looks like to manage our money as believers and what it just looks like overall understanding wealth and why God's giving us wealth. Please share this live. Please share this live. We do have a little bit of time. So if anybody has any questions, bring your questions in. I will have this live on my YouTube page, the Faithfully Fit Training YouTube page. So if you want to go back to refer to it, and it will also be available throughout this week on Facebook as well. This has been, man, this has been great, guys. This has been great. So tell me real quick before we end, and I'm waiting to see if any questions are coming through. Tell me how our viewers can contact you. Phil, we'll go with you first. How our viewers can contact you for a consultation or your services.
Yep, absolutely. So I do a lot of my marketing and business through Instagram. So my
Awesome.
Instagram is SirPNB for my name. Yep, right there.
Got it.
And then LinkedIn as well. So either one of those, you can just shoot me a DM, and we do a lot of free, no look, obligation type things where you just sit down and say, hey, this is what we have, and we can see if we can help you out. Just so you guys know, I'm always a person to say, hey, I'm going to try to help you to my best ability, but I'll also tell you if you don't need it. Right. And
That's
so
good.
I like that transparency. And I think more people need that, in
Yeah.
today's age for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. For sure. Thank you for that. And Felicia, I went ahead and put yours on here too. Can you tell the viewers how they can reach out to you for a consultation and for your services?
Absolutely. So I do have a text community. You can send a text message and then it'll shoot you back a link that you can either send me an email or you can shoot me a text message. And that number is 757-603-3066.
3066. And this is for to text you for
Consultation.
a
Yep.
call.
And it'll give you an automatic reply back to set up your consultation.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
I'm putting that up for you right now. Great. Great, great, great. So if you guys want to reach out to Felicia, you can text the number at the bottom of this screen and get a consultation with her as well. And guys, I so appreciate y'all. This was, I mean, very informative, even for me. And I'm a firm believer in, and even though there are many times that you can get discouraged, but I'm a firm believer in pressing forward. And so I believe this was a resource for our viewers and even for me to continue to press forward despite the mistakes, despite where we are. And so thank you guys so much. Thank y'all.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
absolutely.
having.
Yeah, man,
I
this
love
was
it.
so fruitful. Yeah. Anything else y'all want to say? You guys, anything else y'all want to tag along or end the live with?
Just keep pushing. Like I think the overall message is, hey, start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Start today. Make the decision to start. get with people like where we see right now to help educate you. Go and do the education yourself. But all it is just making a decision today to move forward instead of staying where you are. That's it. Get uncomfortable, or get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes, I love
Right.
that quote.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure, for sure. Felicia,
Yeah.
you got anything you want to say?
Just one thing I would want to add to what Phil said, and I ditto and second that, is be okay with taking the journey.
Yes.
Yeah,
Take the journey, go through the process to get to where it is you desire to be. As Phil said, it may become uncomfortable, but
yeah.
I guarantee you that if you stay in it and you remain consistent and with a made up mind, you will see the benefits and the result of staying in the journey.
Absolutely.
That's so good.
Yep.
Y'all get in their DMs.
No.
Share that text message. Let me tell you something. That is beautiful. I so appreciate y'all's wisdom and insight on this matter. And I know some of you are like, Alex, I thought this was just fitness. No, we're getting holistically well. You hear me?
Yeah.
Holistically well to be able to provide for the kingdom of God, grow his kingdom and advance it. Advance it. Y'all, it's an honor to have you both. And as I mentioned, this live will be on my Faithfully Fit Training YouTube page for the replay, for your references, viewers, and it's going to be for the rest of the week on my Facebook page. Thank y'all so much for viewing.
Thank you.
Let me make sure there aren't any questions. Yeah, I'm like, everyone's probably like me. I'm like, yeah, I got a lot of information that I need to go back and revisit. So I appreciate y'all so much. Thank y'all so much for your time. Thank you
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
everything.
Thank
You
you.
guys have a good one. All right.
Yeah, you guys
All
take
right.
care. Thank you
All right.
guys.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.